Balancing Valorant is a complex task with an increasing pool of agents and maps, to make sure each character has its own value but also isn't overbearing on the meta. This generally means agents go through a lot of balance changes through their lifetime. So in today's first video in the series, we are going to take a look at Jett and talk about how she differs today versus how she launched with the beta of Valorant. So let's jump right into this. Jett is the win-based duelist that dominates both pro and ranked play as a powerful force that can take angles easily and hold off angles on defense. She is considered very powerful in the meta today, but that wasn't always the case. Let's jump all the way back to patch 0.5. For those of you who weren't aware, Jett has gone through some serious changes, but her overall kit has stayed the same. Smokes, updraft, dash, and knives have been her abilities since her launch. However, she has been nerfed time and time again. But that wasn't before buffs catapulted her into the meta. This was a younger Valorant, and Jett was considered to be a terrible character with a kit that today would be considered broken. It wouldn't be uncommon to see posts like this one calling Jett trash. Can someone please tell me what you're getting out of picking Jett as opposed to literally any other character in the game? Her mobility is near useless without ult, her smokes suck, and the only good thing I can think of is her ult, which honestly is still worse or equal to every other ult. I don't know how her mobility helps in duels at all when it's only good for running away. This version of Valorant had a Phoenix and Cypher meta, and was a different time where more basic gameplay was king and the value of Jett's dash was not fully realized. Given this, she was considered to be a trash tier agent alongside Viper, not receiving any changes from the launch of the open beta until the official launch of the game on June 2nd, 2020 with patch 1.0. In this update, they buffed Jett in two major ways. First, they increased the length of her smokes from 4 seconds to 7, citing, her team-oriented output is a little too low. This was still back when she had 3 smokes costing 100 credits each, meaning she had 21 seconds of smoke time, which almost matched Omen's smoke time of 24 seconds. The other changes made it so that Jett broke Cypher's tripwires when she dashed through them. This was a major buff in a meta without Killjoy or Chamber, virtually ensuring Cypher saw lots of play. They made the change saying that, quote, this should allow her a little more freedom to make that aggressive but risky play that creates space for her team. The next change Jett would receive would be just 4 weeks later with patch 1.02 and would bring about yet another buff. The official launch of Valorant and its updates after were meant to bring consistency to the game, and with it they made it so Jett knives refreshed after killing Phoenix ult. Even after receiving these 3 buffs, Jett was not considered strong, and she was definitely not considered close to the meta-warping character we know her to be. Although technically, this is still her most powerful iteration, she saw very little play, only seeing about a 7% pick rate. After this change, it wouldn't be till 99 days later when patch 1.09 came out when she would receive her next change. Jett's first major nerf came with patch 1.09 on September 29th, 2020. This was back when Jett could right-click, get a kill, and her knives would still refresh. However, that was not the subject of this nerf. Instead, the problem was the consistency of being able to right-click her knives at long ranges and get consistent kills. With this update, they increased the time between right-clicks by about 50%, from 0.33 seconds to 0.45 seconds. They also added a damage fall-off to daggers that were right-clicked, making them do less damage once they traveled 12 meters, dropping from 50 damage to as low as 30. In addition, when right-clicking, Jett's knives no longer one-shot in the head, instead only doing 100 damage. These nerfs were meant to simply limit Jett's right-click at long range, as, at the time, players could more easily just right-click long distance and still get kills. This wasn't a nerf necessarily targeting the pick rate of Jett, and instead one just focused on ensuring that you had to be at least a little skillful and not just right-click knives from across the map. By this point, people were starting to realize the power of Jett, and she actually had the second highest pick rate in the game. So what changed? Why, with no changes, did Jett become so powerful? The biggest factor is the age of the game. People were more willing to use playstyles that weren't necessarily traditional for games like CSGO, and in my opinion, people found the power of holding off angles with an op and using Jett's dash to get away free. In addition, team play increased as the game went on, meaning dashing in with Jett became more significant and a much more viable strategy as people learned to play off each other's util. Also at the time, Chamber and Neon didn't exist, meaning Jett was the only character that could op comfortably and the best character for hastily pushing onto sites. However, Jett's newfound power and people understanding how to use her meant that more changes needed to be made as Jett slowly climbed the ranks of pick rate. One major factor to Jett's uprise in play is her play in Valorant's first major esports event, First Strike, taking place starting October 28, 2020, where she saw a 71% pick rate overall and reigned supreme as one of the most powerful characters in the game. This was the official signal that Jett was good and was going to be a part of the meta. The next major change came with patch 2.01 on January 20th, 2021. This update almost completely reversed a previous buff, with her smoke durations being reduced from 7 seconds back to 4.5 seconds, which is only half a second more than what she started with in beta. The stated reason was, we found that the result of the change was that Jett became a substitute for the controller role, meaning she went from not providing enough value to the team to being able to produce so much value that she can be your duelist and controller. This shows the shift in how Jett was seen perfectly and is only the start of the nerfs to come. However, these changes to her smokes did not stunt her pick rate, and with the first international event, Masters Reykjavik 2021, taking place in May 2021, Jett saw an 80% pick rate, being an almost must pick on every map except Bind. This is a significant increase from her Masters 1 North America showing, where she had a 56% pick rate. Even though Jett was a powerhouse must-pick dominating the meta, she didn't see any changes until 153 days later with patch 3.0 on June 22nd, 2021. This was a massive balance change update, with every single agent in the game seeing changes. For Jett, this was in the form of 4 nerfs. First, Jett's smoke price was increased from 100 credits to 200 credits, and her updraft went from 100 credits to 150 credits. While these changes may not seem huge, this took her from a character who could have 2 smokes and an updraft and a ghost on the first round to one who could only buy a singular ability and that same ghost. Thirdly, they also nerfed Jett by making her no longer break Cypher's tripwires. This buff to Cypher was meant to bring him higher in the Killjoy-dominated meta, and was meant to make Jett have to think a little bit more about how she was using her util and when she dashed in. And that's kind of the general idea of these nerfs. Before, Jett didn't have to think about Sentinel util or her economy, as her abilities were cheap, and this last nerf added to this idea of her having to think a little bit more about her economy. They made her ult cost 7 ult points, up from 6. These 4 nerfs would attempt to make Jett less of an economic powerhouse and have to be more adaptable with econ and when pushing sites. However, these nerfs again had very little effect on her pick rate as it continued to soar, or should I say, glide. With Jett's pick rate still being dominant despite her nerfs, patch 3.06 on September 21st, 2021 brought more changes to Jett, with it looking to address 2 major parts of her kit. First, they reduced the charges of her smoke from 3 to 2, again making Jett have to think a little bit more about when abilities should be used. In addition to that, they made it so that Jett's knives don't refresh after getting a kill with the right click. They did bring back the one tap ability of the right click with this change, allowing 1 headshot to kill even on a right click. However, right clicking became a last resort thing to do instead of the norm with Jett. This was meant to combat the viral clips of people running around right clicking 5 enemies in a row. These 2 changes again tried to bring Jett down, but she continued to stay meta, and a big part of this was the lack of changes to the ability that made her powerful, her dash. While not necessarily a change to Jett, on November 16th, 2021, Chamber was introduced to the game to add an alternative to Jett for opping. This significantly reduced Jett's pick rate, as Chamber quickly became one of the most picked characters in the game. However, Chamber would not be the only new addition to chip away at Jett's pick rate. Even with all of the nerfs and Chamber's introduction to the game, since he was not usable in Champions 2021, Jett's pro pick rate increased even more, going from 80% to 82%, showing that her nerfs did nothing to her pick rate. Again, similar to Chamber, on January 11th, 2022, Neon was introduced to the game in patch 4.0 to compete with Jett in her ability to quickly get from point A to point B and push onto site. While Neon was thought to be overpowered when she was first revealed, quickly after launch she was buffed and her pick rate increased, especially on maps like Fracture, where she became the must pick, reducing Jett's pick rate overall. However, more was to come for the wind-wielding agent. At this point, Jett's pick rate had officially declined in pro play for the first time, really ever, and it was a significant amount. In Masters Reykjavik 2022, Jett's pick rate declined to 65%. While it was still the highest pick rate of any character, it marked a significant decline for the agent as other characters such as Chambers saw noticeable play. Outside of little bug fixes, the next actual change to Jett would not come until 218 days after her previous changes, coming on April 27th, 2022. After about a year and a half of Jett being the go-to duelist, Valorant changed the core center of Jett's kit, her dash. Up until this point, when Jett clicked her E ability, she would instantly dash in the direction she was pressing. After this update, you would have to press E to go into a dash state and then click E again to actually dash. If you don't use the dash within 12 seconds of your first press, you would lose the charge. This major change nerfed one of the core problems with Jett, where you could play sloppily and get away with it. You didn't need to think about util usage, and this change, well, changed that. The biggest effect this had was making Jett less effective at holding off angles with an up and getting out. This combined with Chamber being in the game led to Chamber's pick rate skyrocketing more and Jett's pick rate reducing to more healthy numbers. The most recent changes as of the release of this video came around August 9th, 2022. With patch 5.03, Jett's knives were nerfed once again. With this update, Jett's knives did less damage with leg shots, moving from 50 to 43. While it may not seem like a lot, it can mean a lot in situations with Jett's right click, making 2 body shots and a leg shot not leading to a kill anymore. However, it hasn't made a significant impact on her pick rate, at least not nearly as much as the change in her dash did. Looking at the current pick rate, in the VALORANT Champions 2022 event, Jett saw a 31% pick rate, placing her solidly in the middle of the agent pool in terms of pick rate, which is great to see. She has her maps such as Breeze and Ascent, but still leaves room for other duelists to shine. Wow, that was a lot, and it kind of shows the rise and fall of Jett in the meta. She went from a perceived trash tier agent to the definition of meta warping back to a reasonable level. She currently still sees decent play with about 41% pick rate in competitive. While it took about 2.5 years to get there, Jett is finally in a place where she feels powerful to play, but not overpoweredly oppressive. Alrighty guys, thank you for sticking around. If you made it this far, hit that like button, and if you want to see more content like this, subscribe and leave a comment down below on which character you want me to do next. Also, while not exactly the same, you can see a previous video of mine on the end screen where you can see how Phoenix changed from alpha builds of the game to how he is now. Alright, see ya, bye.